Hello and welcome back to Daily Drives, and today we are at a farm, and to get here we needed this, the 2020 Range Rover Velar. So first off, thank you Roots and Shoots for allowing us to make a video here. If you want more information on them and what they do at this farm, you can check out the link here to their Instagram. Now, onto the Velar, or the Velar. You see, I'm quite confused. This isn't the first time Range Rover has used these letters on a Range Rover. Actually, the first time they did that was in 1960 when they were prototyping the first Range Rover. Well, the company was thinking they should upscale the Land Rover at the time and make something more luxurious. And they didn't really know what to call it. Was it going to be the Road Rover or the Range Rover? So it was just known as the Velar, which is roughly translated from Spanish and Italian to hidden, to be concealed. So 50 years later, after Range Rover created the first SUV, we now have another car in its lineup, which is the Velar, and it is more sportier and less boxy than the big Range Rover that you get. You can see that with the front bumper design and how low the lip is in the front. Not very off-roady or utilitarian, as well as it does have these signature lights that all Range Rovers get, and 20-inch wheels with this one, and you can even go bigger if you wanted. Less utility than you'd expect from a car like this. And that sportiness continues to the side profile. I mean, it looks very sleek, very modern, very aerodynamic and stylish. It's a beautiful looking car, but it does take away from that ruggedness that Range Rovers are known for. At the back, it just looks kind of incomplete. I mean, this is the P250 version, so it doesn't have the exhaust outlets, unlike the SVA version that has a quad exhaust and a fire-breathing 500 horsepower V8.
There's some chickens in the background.
Nice. Some chicken. And while we are at the back, let's have a look at the boot space. I can open the trunk using the key here. Modern cars solving modern problems. And actually, it's not too bad here in the back. You have 632 liters of boot space. However, the lip is kind of high. You can solve that if you get the air suspension, the optional air suspension with your Velar, and the boot will go a bit lower. But the reason why it's so high is that you have a full-size spare wheel and tire underneath. But if you do require some more space, you can simply go to the second row over here and pull down the seats, and you have much more space to carry longer items. You can also fold down the middle on its own if you're going on a ski trip. Now, there are versions of the Velar that come with a quick release here in the back just to make your life a bit easier. Now, that's it from the exterior. Let's go have a look inside and see what the Velar is like to live with. Just like in any other car, you use the key fob to unlock it, but in this car, the handles come out and hide back in once you're driving. But if you were accidentally to lock the car with your hand still on the handle, it will not close and it will not crush it. Now, when it comes to the interior of this car, it's absolutely beautiful. It's very modern, very sleek, and all the materials here feel pretty premium. I mean, everything from the steering wheel to the way the dashboard looks and how it feels to touch, and you have these big grab handles that are all aluminum. The air conditioning, even though these vents are quite small, is very good for the GCC, and at 28,500 BD, considering all the options you do get in this car, it's actually a pretty good price. Now, apart from the design, you also get the latest technology from Range Rover. So the gauge cluster is fully digital and is very easy to use. You can see absolutely everything you need, and it's not cluttered like other car manufacturers make them. As well as if you want to control the menus and all that, and you don't want your navigation to be in the middle and control your music or your cruise control and all that, you can do that from the steering wheel with these nicely designed buttons that feel really good, but they're also touch sensitive. So for example, if you're driving along, you might accidentally turn up or lower the volume, and that could get pretty annoying, and it doesn't always work too well either. So what is really good is the infotainment system, and just like the Audi Q7 that we reviewed lately that had 2 screens, this also has a similar setup. If you want to watch that video, you can see it somewhere up there. But this system, in my mind, is a lot better, and you can customize it physically. So for example, if you want this screen to move closer to you or further away, you can just, at a push of a button, move it, and that really helps with glare, so you don't have all the issues with that. Below you have your climate control system, and here you also can control the terrain modules that this car has. It doesn't have a low range mode, but it does have some features to change up the car so it's ready to go on different terrains like mud, sand, and rock, and all of that. And in this second screen, you do have physical control, so while you're driving, you don't need to take your eyes off the road to adjust your climate control. So before we go to the back, I want to talk about a couple of quirky functions this car has, and one of them is the audio system, the Meridian audio sound system. Now, I did not like it in the Defender that we just reviewed, and the reason is because I was very ignorant and didn't go through the settings that these cars have, because there are 4 different presets for the sound. It has stereo, Meridian, Dolby, as well as DTS, and depending which one you choose, they're all very different. So from song to song, you might want to fiddle around with that, which could be kind of annoying. So what also is quite, maybe not so annoying, is just confusing, is the ambient lighting. So when I'm in sport mode in this car, or R dynamic mode as Range Rover calls it, I can only have red ambient lighting. I cannot change any of the ambient lighting in that mode. But as soon as I switch to eco or comfort mode, for example, I can choose whichever color I like. And that is weird, to say the least. I mean, maybe I think blue is sporty, or yellow. So as you would expect from an SUV, you do have quite a bit of space on the inside for storing things. So the door pockets are large, as well as there is a felted glove box, and even the armrest is felted as it opens 2 ways. So if someone is using it, the other one can open it without getting in your way. In here, you do have your 2 USBs, your SD card port, as well as a 12-volt socket, and you can use that to connect to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as this car comes with both. And it also has 2 cup holders. One is in plain sight, and the other one, you need to press the Land Rover button to reveal it. And finally, there is a little cubby behind the screen down here to store some stuff that you don't want people to see. I don't know what that could be. Well, anyways, that's enough of that. Let's go to the back. So when you get into the back seats of the Velar, you notice that it's quite claustrophobic in here. The windows are very small, and that's no thanks to the design of this car with the swooping roof. I mean, that is to be kind of expected when you make design more important than utility. The seats are quite comfortable, but I do not have that much room for my knees. This is my driving position in front of me, and it's fine. I just would like a little bit more so they wouldn't be touching. I do have a lot of headroom, so that is very nice. I did not expect that. And back here, you do have an armrest with your cup holders to relax. And finally, the ISOFIX is here, and you do have these plastic covers on top of them, which is nice that they have their own rails, but if you use a child seat quite often, you might lose these, and when you take them out, it just might not look as good as if they were on. And that was our take on the 2020 Land Rover Range Rover Velar, at least from an exterior and interior standpoint. I do have one question though. Does it really drive like a Range Rover should? To answer that, I have Casper, who's gonna take it on the road.
Now, for it to be a Range Rover, it needs to live up to the Range Rover name. It's bigger, more lavish, more pompous brother, so to speak, filled to the brim with leather and wood. This car is not that. You see, it's kind of wrong to compare this car to the bigger Range Rover because they have gone for a completely different design, pretty much based on the Jaguar F-Pace. And you can feel that when it comes to the interior, because the interior is laid out quite sporty. It's not big and it's not pompous, and the seats are fairly supporting, but it's definitely got more of a sporty feel rather than land yacht. Now, when it comes to the steering of this car and general handling, I mean, it is very planted on the road. They've definitely capitalized on the sporty characteristics. This car is not fitted with the adaptive air suspension, which I thought was going to be a bit of a problem because that is usually used for multiple reasons. It's to either raise and lower the car with your all-terrain response system or the general characteristics of how this car handles, which this car does really well. I mean, you can even throw it into corners and it actually absorbs everything quite happily. What they've done with this chassis is quite interesting because it has probably one of the best turning circles I've ever experienced on a car, especially of this size. Now, one of the problems some cars face is being over-designed and overdeveloped to make sure it just looks the way the designer wants it to be. And what they then forget is you know, the people who are actually going to be driving this car sometimes. And that is a little bit obvious when it comes to this car. I mean, yes, it's designed to look sleek and stylish and so on, but they've actually compromised that a little bit because it's put the roofline a little bit down. So they've given it some big A-pillars, and you can actually notice the same thing in the back. I mean, the rear of this car is quite narrow, and that's obviously sacrificed the rear window. I mean, you could get over that with things such as the 360 camera and other safety features that keep you in line, but the 360 camera is not available on this particular car, but you know, you could have it if you wanted. When it comes to tech, obviously you have your standard safety equipment. You've got your cruise control, you've got your lane assist, bits and pieces to keep your hands on the wheel. Now, Osama did talk about all the tech in detail, so I'm not going to go over that again. However, to use it while driving is definitely more user-friendly than some of the other cars that we've driven in the past. Now, one thing to touch on before we finish this video is its engine. It is powered by the P250, which stands for 250 horsepower, which is pretty self-explanatory, but it is a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Now, it's not a bad engine by any stretch of imagination. It, combined with the 8-speed gearbox, is more than sufficient for you to be able to waft around town. However, I do wish this car had the V6 engine, because I just feel that is going to make this car feel a little bit more sporty. Right now it feels sporty on a day off, if that makes sense. So the 2020 Range Rover Velar, do I like it? Honestly, I've had it now for 2 days and it's started to grow on me. It hasn't developed into anything. For some reason, I am personally incredibly attached to its bigger brother, or the Sport. I just think if you're going to go for a Range Rover, well, those are your only real alternatives. I do appreciate that Land Rover has given an alternative choice to people who do not want those big, bulky off-roaders. And sometimes they think the Evoque may be a little bit too small. So a happy medium needed to be developed. And I think that's where the Velar will sit and is sitting currently. The only thing it has working against it is its price. But depending on how you spec your car and depending on your personal needs, you can decide if that price is justifiable or not. And with that, thank you so much for watching this episode of Daily Drives. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, drop a like down below and also comment down below to let us know what you think of the 2020 Range Rover Velar. And finally, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Until then, goodbye.